Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for Miniforce Super Dimension Power Acha, maybe? That's what the listing I bought it from calls it anyway. I'm sure KR Brickbot will correct me. Here's how he scales with Transformers and some other mini bots or Miniforce robots. And here he is with Oni Taijin and Godmaster V, my custom creation. Yeah, he definitely can hold his own. And here's a 360 view of this guy, and he looks pretty magnificent. The way all the parts come together, he just looks really awesome. I think they took a lot of inspiration from that Sentai series where everything was cubic, 8-bit animals. And I think they just really improved on the idea. He's still got some 8-bit touches and like video game controller little parts on him here and there. But I think he just comes together really well. He's just such an excellent looking robot mode, very sleek and narrow, hardly any kibble. Just really solid looking robot. The colors are just very attractive. Definitely like an 8 out of 10. And then let's get a close up of this head sculpt, and you can see it's kind of terrible. It's hard to tell what's going on. The mouthpiece is actually very far recessed in there. Like it's way further down this visor. It's definitely not flush with the visor at all. Like you can tell when you do a 3/4 view, you can't even see the mouthpiece at all. All you see is the visor or this head crest. So really wild, crazy head design that I think just doesn't work. And while we're on the topic of the head, he's got this extra piece, and I watched a video of this guy and they didn't seem to know what to do with this either, and I couldn't find it anywhere in the instructions. There's no place to put this. And obviously it's another helmet piece. And it looks pretty cool. It actually looks better than his combined mode head. Why they didn't use this for the combination is completely beyond me. Because this head is terrible. It's black, it's hard to see. It doesn't really stick out. This looks better, even though maybe that makes him too red. But this just doesn't work. It's very bad and it's flat. But we'll go over that a little bit more in a second. So I made a couple little adjustments to his transformation. He's really supposed to have his wings out. Should be more like this. So you get more of that 8-bit effect. And then these little fins by his fist should be like facing this way. Actually, probably this way looks the best. But if you do his fins like this, now his fists don't rotate. So that prevents his fist from rotating. That's why it's better to have these little fins here, and then you can get good amount of fist rotation. And then of course you must have noticed his really impressive accessory here. This awesome giant green sword, which looks just amazing. I'm always a sucker for blue or green laser swords. This has got to be one of my favorite swords I've ever seen. It's really good. And it's a very large sword. Could almost be a cosplay thing if it had a bigger handle. It could be a little dagger. But yeah, just what a great looking sword. And then it's got like a laser effect that slides over. So this is like the base version of the sword, which is the propeller for the helicopter. And then you just slide this on. Very satisfying. It clicks into place. And then you got this enormous sword for him to wield. And of course, because he has pretty good arm articulation, he can actually pose with the sword with a nice resting pose. But yeah, what a great accessory. I think this sword kind of makes the whole robot. It just works really well. And then, yeah, as far as his articulation goes, it's pretty poor, to be honest. Like his head doesn't articulate at all. He's got 360 on the shoulder. You kind of have to move these boosters in his back. So he's got like this kind of effect. This is how the instructions have kind of show it, is having these pieces separate, which looks pretty good. Gives them kind of a booster effect, but you can just pose these down if they're like too much and they get in the way. But then you got like this ugly kind of gappy part back here, which doesn't look great. But that does free up some of his articulation. So you can get this going on his shoulder. And the ratchets in the shoulder are pretty weak. The combination joint is not great, which I think has always been an issue with these Miniforce figures. But with this guy there, it's very weak. There's no way he's going to be holding this giant sword with these weak ratchets. Okay, never mind. I guess he can. Well, I guess he proved me wrong. So, yeah, I guess it's strong enough to barely hold his sword unless you tap it. In which case the whole thing will crumble. It kind of just depends on where you're ratcheting it. If you're like here, there's just no way. So the ratchets are just not going to get you to get a lot of good sword poses. I guess while I'm trying, we could try to two-hand this. Yeah, it's impossible. There's too much chest in the way. But yeah, so he's got 360 on the shoulder. His chest crest is going to get in the way a little bit, of course. He does have bicep swivel. He does have a more than 90-degree bend in the elbow if you do it straight. If you don't, then he's only got 90 degrees because of the way this is cut. And then that's about it. You can kind of cheat some hip articulation. Like technically he does have a forward kick of about, what is that, like 30 degrees. So he does have that forward kick, but it's kind of pointless. You can untab his thigh, and that does unlock this knee joint, but that's really just a transformation joint. It's not intended to be a knee. And I guess you can combine that with his forward kick, and you can kind of get him a stepping forward pose. So that's kind of cool. At least he can sort of look like he's walking. His ankles and feet aren't going to articulate at all. And then another unfortunate thing is his hips cannot get wider than this slight A stance. You can collapse it into this stance, which is much worse. So you can get like a coffin stance. But yeah, not much in the way of articulation, and I'm kind of okay with that because this guy just does so much, and having stable legs is pretty nice actually. So I kind of give him a pass, which I really shouldn't, but he kind of earns it. He's got a lot of play value. So yeah, let's get a look at his non-combined head here so we can see what's going on behind this mask. So you get this really flat black mask. And then you can see he's got one of his combined mode heads here. And it's just like a flat head that just flips up and down. Has no articulation, unfortunately. And of course he doesn't have any waist. But yeah, that's kind of the whole thing of this guy. He looks really incredible, but you're not going to get a lot of action poses out of him. I think the reason I enjoy him is just because he's fun to transform back and forth. Another thing that kind of bothers me is I think this chest section is too big, especially if you like slender up his shoulders a little bit. I think his chest actually looks better without this red crest on top. So this kind of makes him a little bit more proportion, I think, and helps with his articulation so his arms don't, or his chest doesn't get in the way of his arms. Like if this was setting further up, I think this would be a perfectly fine chest crest by itself, but maybe it's just too much yellow. They wanted to use all the colors, or even just this by itself, I think would have mostly got the job done. These pieces kind of get annoying because they're just there. I don't know. I think actually this is not too bad either. And I think this head is kind of better in some ways. But again, if they would have used this head crest, this would have been a good combined mode head. Really wasted opportunity there. And it's really a shame this head can't articulate at all. I'm sure they could have engineered that. It was just like out of the budget. But yeah, so you can see this robot is made of 4 other transforming robots, which is a pretty good deal. So like to get him into his other modes, we're just going to rip off his arms here. And you can see his transforming shoulder gimmick is just like these ratcheted nubs, and then they click into these. Not sure how long this will last, but Miniforce has pretty good quality, so it's probably fine. And then The legs are pretty hard. You got to yank them out with a lot of force because these nubs on the combination joint really hold it into place very nicely. And then you have like this basic shape here, which is made out of purple and red, or blue and red, of course. I mean, blue and pink. So you can actually get from here, you can get to their combine mode pretty easily. You're just going to unpeg the thighs, flip around the combiner joint all the way to the back, and then you just do that with the other side. And then you can unfold these legs. And then these legs have a special trick where they telescope out a little bit if you just yank on them. And then you can get the full knee range. And then you're going to slot out his toes. And there you've got like most of a robot already, but then you have to do a lot of parts forming. Pink, or I guess Lucy maybe, does pretty much all the work of this combiner. She just gets taken apart and put back together in so many different ways. So for the blue and pink combiner, you take off the arms, and the arms are just going to reposition down here. So you're just going to peg those in to the side of her legs. And that's what these little tiny little tabs are for right here. And now that that's done, you've got basically the lower half of the combined mode robot. You're going to take off this hood piece. So a lot of parts forming involved, unfortunately. And you're going to rotate this combined piece down. You have to take this off. And then you're just going to put this back on, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So that just goes right back in place. And now you have the pants of this two-part combination. Okay, one more thing about the pants. There's these little panels here that become the heels, so you definitely want to rotate those out. Okay, now we got the pants all done, and then this will just pop back onto the back again. So now you're going to turn this guy into the shirt, and that's pretty easy. From here, you're just going to separate the pelvis, so you just break that in half. And then this is going to move up to become the shoulder pads. And then you can see there's a little combined mode fist that's also clearly leg feet. And you're going to do the other shoulder pad. And then you need to just yank out the forearms. And that will unlock these elbow joints. And then this is got a peg next to the neck that keeps these little arm panels in place. And then you're just going to move out these arms, and you're basically just going to drop this guy right on top of the pants. And then you can see there's little clips here that correspond to some clips here. And then there's these clips. And it's all going to just do this. And then you're going to peg the front of the shirt into the pants. And there we go with this purple and blue combination. You get also this sword, which is way too thin for its own good. I don't know why they made this. I'm always tempted to just break this in half. It's way too skinny. And then you take the battle mask from earlier, and that's just going to peg into the sword here to make a combined kind of sword, I guess, which makes the sword better somehow. And then you peg that into his fist. And there you go. Now you got this combined mode, and it's pretty bad. It looks bad. It feels bad. It's got giant hollow gaps back here. It's just bad. But at least it's like an extra little play feature. You can kind of kick forward. Again, 30 degrees of kick. Full knee. No thigh swivel, no waist. You get these elbow joints, which are ugly and kind of pointless, but you get 90 degrees on these, so I guess they're not pointless. No biceps. Articulation outward on the arm because of this is made out of the blue robot's hip joints pretty much. And that's it. That's your whole articulation wash sleeve. Yeah, what? I thought you could rotate these. Oh no, you can't. So you can't actually rotate the arms at all. All you can do is bend the elbows. So really, what a sad robot. Um, it's okay. I guess it's something you can do. And then the head does not articulate. And then again, we get a really good look at this pretty cool head sculpt. But yeah, that's this guy. He's sad. Okay, let's go make our other robot who's our other two-part combiner who's also kind of sad. So we got these giant legs, and actually these legs are the entire robot, surprisingly. So you just unpeg these knee pads, and these are going to become the arms. And then you can fold down this combiner joint, fold this hood piece down, and then you're going to extend the leg, and that reveals the robot's leg and pelvis. And then you're going to rotate this whole section down. You can rotate the arm down, extend out the fist, and then the head is in the middle here. You're just going to rotate that up. And then for the combined mode, you're actually going to leave these combined feet like this. And then you just take his other half, do the same thing. And now you got two halves of a robot, which is just going to sandwich together. And you can see this is pretty much just the yellow robot by himself. And then I think maybe for this mode, these are supposed to rotate up. I guess that makes him a little bit more sleek looking slightly. But yeah, there's pretty much the yellow robot with some platform shoes. And then you're going to take this combined mode helmet, and this is going to peg into here, and it's got these two little dots on the side of his head. And you just peg that into his head, and this is another like really poorly fitting helmet. Look how far back this mouthpiece is. You can't even see it. Why do they do that? I don't get it. Like, it's just way too long. It makes no sense why they didn't just recess it back more. So you can't see the mouthpiece again. I don't know what's going on with these masks. Anyway, you're going to take his chest shield piece, and this will now become an axe for the combined mode to wield. So that's kind of cool. Don't hate that. And then we're going to take all these other little bits, except for this. This does nothing. And we're just going to reassemble our helicopter robot here. So we're just going to peg his body in together. And then we're going to sandwich these cockpit pieces together. Like so. And then you're going to, so the whole thing is kind of held together by this, and you get these two little tabs under the wheels, and these tabs are what's going to peg into this guy's back. And then you're just going to rip him in half so that he looks like this. And then in the instructions, it shows you that like the insides of the elbows are just facing this way. You get kind of these little fin pieces. I think it looks better like this maybe. So you have just the arms out here. And maybe like this. No, this way. And then you're just going to arrange the wings in an appealing way. Yeah, like this. You want the wings to like look like this. The wings have a lot of joints on them, so they can get a little bit fiddly. But there's your backpack, and you're just going to slap this jetpack into these two tabs right here, or into these two clips. And then there he is with his jetpack assembled. And then you're going to take this and do nothing with it. It's just going to tab onto his forearm. This is, I guess, some kind of bow weapon. And there you go. And there's this guy's combined mode. And again, this just does nothing. It just disappears. So pretend that doesn't exist. And here's the yellow combined mode, yellow and red. And it's also bad. It's not good. It's kind of interesting though. It's interesting to look at, but not in a good way. It's just got a lot going on. Actually, I kind of like it, to be honest. It's not too bad. But it probably is like a 4 in terms of cool factor. The articulation is going to be greatly hampered now, so his shoulders are going to run into his backpack, so he can't articulate his arms anymore. Past this point, that's about as far back as they're going to be allowed to go. He does have bicep swivel. He does have elbows. He doesn't have wrist. He doesn't have a waist. His head does have articulation, but again, his backpack gets in the way, so now he can't even turn his head very much. And then he does have forward kick, backward kick, side, if you can get his arms out of the way, which is impossible. And he's got no... Wait, does he? It looks like he has a knee, but it's just a pretend knee. So they fake you out by giving you a knee cut, but no actual knee. Yeah, and that's it for this guy's articulation. So let's bring out our 2 losers here. There they are. They don't look good. But I think that's okay, because the combined mode more than makes up for it, and is, I think, the real selling piece of this whole set. And here's one last size comparison if you're interested. Yeah, if you want to get this set, I'll link the eBay seller that I got it from. I got the whole set for $140 after shipping, and I think that's a really good deal for these guys. It was well worth it. I'm really pleased with it. The quality is especially good, even though these came from China. I'm pretty sure these are Korean robots that were just resold in China with like different branding.